week 17 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few tight ends I looked at off the wire this week. The first guy, Chigga Kwango of the Tennessee Titans. Chigga Kwango, I've been saying it for weeks now. He's starting to get things going, be a playmaker for this Tennessee Titan team. I know last week it obviously was Ryan Tannehill in there in that ball game, and we'll see if Will Levis returns from the ankle injury and plays. But the last few weeks for Kwango, week 14 in Miami, 5 catches, 46 yards. Week 15 versus Houston, 3 catches, 36 yards. And week 16 versus the Seahawks, 6 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown. So the best game of the season, it was in week 16 for Kwango. So week 17, a good matchup on paper at the Houston Texans. Give up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. He's a big physical tight end. He's a matchup problem for safeties and linebackers. And right now, if you need a tight end with injuries or guys not really performing, Kwango's out there right now in still a bunch of fantasy leagues, 68%. Next tight end is Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints. In the last few weeks, Johnson's starting to go out there and put up fantasy points. After last season was a solid year for Johnson, 508 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. Where this season, we really haven't seen much, but the last 2 weeks he's gone out there and had the 2 best games of the season for him. Week 15 versus the Giants, 2 catches, 38 yards, a touchdown. And week 16 at the Los Angeles Rams, 4 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. So this week, another good matchup at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Give up the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So Johnson's available right now in 88% of fantasy leagues. We know he's a matchup problem, a big target for Derek Carr in this offense. And if Derek Carr could keep getting him the football, he's definitely a tight end that could pay dividends here in week 17 with a good matchup. So right now, if you're in a pinch at the tight end position, and we don't know if TJ Hawkinson's going to play or not next week, and you're the Hawkinson owner, Johnson's definitely an ad this week. The next ad is Logan Thomas of the Washington Commanders. I know Thomas, the last month of the season, was silent before he had a nice ball game with the New York Jets where he had 5 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. But like I mentioned, week 12 at Dallas, 2 catches, 15 yards. Week 13 versus Miami, a 2-point conversion only. Week 15 at the Rams, a catch, 7 yards. So week 16 was a great game for him, no doubt about it. I know a lot of garbage time until it wasn't garbage time, and the Commanders came back from 20 points and took the lead, only to go on and lose at a game-winning field goal at the end. But anyway, this week, a tougher matchup versus the Niners. They give up the 10th least amount of fantasy points to tight ends on the season. But Logan Thomas, we know he's a big target. We know he's a decent route runner, and he's a guy that can make plays, and we've seen it throughout his career, and obviously this season. So right now, if you're in a pinch at the tight end position, Thomas is available right now in 61% of fantasy leagues. The next tight end is Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers. So Tucker Kraft, it's been a solid season for him this year. So Tucker Kraft, he's been a solid tight end filling from Luke Musgrave over the last month of the season. So the last few weeks for Kraft, 10 or more fantasy points for him. Week 14 at the Giants, 4 catches, 64 yards. Week 15 versus Tampa, 4 catches, 57 yards, a touch. And week 16 at Carolina, 4 catches, 60 yards. So this week, good matchup at the Minnesota Vikings. That we know their defense really isn't that good. We just saw this Minnesota team the last few weeks give up a bunch of points to the Cincinnati Bengals, and then the Lions went in there and had a nice game. So I think Tucker Kraft once again could go out there, put up a good ball game for fantasy. Tucker Kraft, he's going out there, like I said, he's putting up points. He's been a matchup problem. And Jordan Love, he's like the tight end all season. Luke Musgrave early in the year, and now Tucker Kraft since he's filled in for Musgrave. So surprisingly, he's out there in 81% of fantasy leagues, and definitely a tight end I look to get. And the 5th and final tight end I look to get off the wire this week is Kylan Granson of the Indianapolis Colts. Over the last few weeks, the Colts have gotten these tight ends involved in the passing game more. And I know Michael Pittman did miss this ball game for the Indianapolis Colts, where Granson got more targets and he led the team in receiving. So the last few weeks for Granson, it really hasn't done much, but he's a guy to mention on this list. Available 99% of fantasy leagues. Week 13 at the Titans, 3 catches, 73 yards. Week 14 at Cincinnati, 2 catches, 17 yards. Week 15 versus the Steelers, a catch, 6 yards. And then week 16 at Atlanta, 5 catches, 62 yards. So Granson a big target. We know he's been a touchdown-dependent tight end for the most part this season, but right now, he's a guy, like I said, out there in 99% of fantasy leagues, and Gardner Minshew over the last few weeks. If it's been Mo Alley-Cox or him, they've been getting more involved in the offense. He's a tight end's head this week, so that's a few tight ends I looked at off the wire for week 17 of the fantasy football season.